we're able to facilitate that relationship and facilitate that action in motion with you. So literally hold your hand and take you to the person you need to meet, hold your hand, create the community around your product or service that needs to be created in order for you to have success. You need to really attune to what is happening here.
Yeah.
And to the extent to which you can do that will probably paint that trajectory of success or failure. Come with good intentions, come with good actions, and the results, even if you make a mistake, people will forgive you because they understand and they feel that, hey, this guy is trying to do good. SpeakuP Monday is a talk show that we've had.
You're now to episode soon 500. You've done this for years and years.
Yeah, we're getting close to the 500. Go on.
Hello everyone, welcome to yet another Seven Stones Business Talk. Today I have a very distinguished guest, as they say, Robert Ian Bonnick. Normally he is the one asking questions and I'm the one answering, but today we're going to turn it around. And I guess everyone knows you already. We figured out today that we're both living legends in our different ways. But I guess, who is Robert to begin with?
Right, so Robert as a business or Robert as a person?
Well, I think maybe a little bit of both, so people get to know who you are. But yeah, obviously the purpose of this is to talk business. But I'm sure people want to know the Robert behind your brand and your business. Yeah.
Wonderful. So Robert and the person and the business are kind of interconnected. Obviously, I grew up in London in two children's homes for about 17 years. At the age of 12, I kind of figured out that one of the purposes, mission of my life was to unite people. And so being here in Indonesia, where the motto of the country is unity and diversity, it just feels like the two go together really, really well. And so that kind of moves on to who I become in business, which is, you know, a person who's able to connect people, connect like Nokia, connecting people, connecting projects across about 10 different market sectors. And this has been empowered over the years through living in different countries like the UK, America, New Zealand, Australia for 25 years, and now here in Bali, Indonesia, and in the process becoming an author, a speaker, a coach, and advisor. So that's where I would put myself.
So I guess you already touched a little bit about what is it that makes you tick, what drives you, what's your passion about, and maybe we can dig a little bit into the passion of what you just mentioned to Bali, Indonesia, and so on. Yeah,
so the passion for me, you know, having this, again, we go back to the kids' home again, it was so powerful because, you know, the introvert in me saw how we would not get along, all different cultures, backgrounds, ideologies going on in this kids' home. But then when something threatened all of us, we would galvanize and we would forget our problems and the fact we were different. So the introvert saw that, and I remember the time that it happened, it just gave me this insight, which then was the extrovert coming out of saying, well, I actually know what makes people tick, and I kind of know how to connect people, and I actually know that that's the mission, vision and purpose of me being here was to do that, but for the good of people. So in other words, to bring people and projects together to make initiatives and businesses that not only work and create profit and create prosperity for people, but also kind of add to that cultural element as well. So you get this triple win. So money, it needs to make money, and then addressing the cultural aspects of where we are, and then also, you know, that third part of kind of bringing people together at the same time around common ground, around things that we can all get around.
Yeah. We talk a lot about this too, instead of like Bali, there's a lot of self-invented, I'm sure I am, you are, and everyone is, but there's also a lot of noise, and I call it fuss, you know, a lot of lack of reality often. And a lot of consultants and companies out there offering all kinds of services. So I guess what makes you different, what makes you add value to a business? Like we talk about partners in growth, Seven Stones, we want to make sure that the client gain, we gain, and we grow together. And I know you have similar aspects, but what do you think is the architecture of your business?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. It's three things really. So the basis being connecting people and projects. And we kind of leave off in a way where you start. So, from what I understand about Seven Stones is that, Partners in Growth, incredibly good at navigating the complex tapestry of regulations, setting up companies, and where to go. Where we come in is kind of, how to actually plug in to business in these particular market sectors. So we don't set up PMAs, we don't deal with that. We have wonderful people like you that we work together with. So for us, having this talk show, SpeakuP Monday, that we've had about 1,000 guests, 10,000 audience members in person, and so on, has created some incredible relationships. So what we find then is that, the way that we're able to kind of, stand apart from everyone else is that we're able to really hone down who it is you need to speak to, who it is you need to partner with, who it is you need to get advice from, and then facilitate that process. So instead of just being a consultant that comes up with a great strategy, which, let's face it, AI and ChatGPT do a pretty good job now, we're able to facilitate that relationship and facilitate that action in motion with you. So literally hold your hand and take you to the person you need to meet, hold your hand, create the community around your product or service that needs to be created in order for you to have success. Or in the cultural aspect, the ability to go into any particular community here in Bali anyway, and then pinpoint the right people to give you the right advice. So as you go through and work your way into creating these wonderful local relationships, then we're there to kind of facilitate all of that as well.
So it's like, we talk a lot about this too, like branding, like you talk about a brand, and to me, a brand is much more than just a logo and a slogan and some nice words. It is your identity. So the way I understand what you're saying is that you kind of take or understand the identity of your client, and then like-minded people, I guess is the word. You try to find like-minded partner, like-minded projects. Is that the fit? Because AI obviously can't do that, but
I mean, there's a term, there's two parts of it. Combinatory creativity is the word, but really it's cross-pollination. So if you can imagine, you have 10 different buckets. Each bucket is a market sector. And in each bucket, you have the market for that particular sector. What often happens is that the person or the people or the leaders in that market are completely immersed in that sector or in that bucket. And they're not really able to see what's happening over there. And if you imagine that 10 times, so what we do is that we come in and say, we understand what's happening in each market sector, each bucket, and we can see that this cross-pollination or combinatory creativity, we're able to basically create strategic partnerships, new ideas, new solutions to problems that perhaps that individual within that one bucket couldn't reach because they're so immersed in that world. So that's what I mean about, the ability to cross-pollinate ideas, solutions, relationships to create businesses and opportunities that there probably isn't in existence at the moment, or something that should happen, but for some reason isn't.
So like when you talk to a client, what someone comes in, foreigner, it could be an individual or it could be a company, a joint venture of some kind. What is your best advice to them when they come to Bali and to Indonesia to do business? What do they need to sort of tick off and understand?
Great.
Like we talk a lot about the wavelength and how we're differently set and so on.
Well, look, I mean, the first thing we begin with, and I'll answer that question in a second, is there's three questions that we ask. Number one is, what is it that you're doing? Number two is, who is it that you need to connect with? All right? And then number three is, what's your timeline? Right? There are other questions, but these are the three key questions that we need to ask first. Once we know that, then we're able to get on to answering your question, which is, okay, so based upon the different market sector that they're entering may bring about a different set of values within that community that they need to align with. So one of the major things, and now we're answering your question, one of the major things is get out of your head, because most people, I come from the UK, you come from Norway, we have friends who come from different parts, Australia and different parts of the world. And wherever you are, you come with this modus operandi, this set of values, culture, approaches to the way you do business and the way you do life. What we're saying and what you're saying, and this is where we completely align, is that you need to really realize you're not in Kansas anymore. So you need to really attune to what is happening here.
Yeah.
And to the extent to which you can do that will probably paint that trajectory of success or failure. Yeah.
So that kind of leads to the, I guess, the downfalls that many companies see, and we see the turnover in many businesses. People come with a dream, a vision, and they don't adjust to the mindset, they don't adjust to the business culture, and they lose money and they pack and leave, or they learn and start something else. What do you see as the sort of main mistakes, I guess? What do people do wrong when they come here? I know you touched a little bit on it already, on sort of getting out of your head and realizing that you're not back home, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the top three: lack of clarity and guidance on the regulatory environment in which they're coming into. And again, this is for 7 stones, but you do this remarkably well, right? So you're able, with your 30 years of knowledge and understanding of how this country operates and moves, you're able to say, right, so if I go to 3 different, let's say, arbiters of knowledge, let's put it like this, inverted commas, and this has happened to us the first time we reached here, we would get, one will give us one opinion on the same thing. Okay, good, that's your opinion. We get a second opinion. We get a second opinion. Now it's a different opinion on the same question. So now you're a bit confused. And then you're saying, right, well, I'll take a third opinion. Now that third opinion will either agree with number 1 or number 2, and that's the path I'll take. And you come in, you get your third opinion, and sure enough, it's different again to the other 2. So now you're stuck thinking, I have no clue what to do, how to do it, who to believe, and now I'm stuck. So that first part of understanding the regulatory environment in which you come, I think, is a number 1. And then number 2 is, which goes to our second question of who is it that you need to connect with, and being kind of clear on, who is it I need to connect with. Failure, to be clear on that, it's like each road you can take. So now you've got no way of guiding your decision making to be effective, and now you're wheel spinning and you're going to waste a hell of a lot of time. And then the final one is kind of the one we said before about this lack of understanding of where you stand culturally. So you make these mistakes, and we've had these conversations many times, where I remember, where I asked you a question, said, look, Terje, if I make this error here, and I was getting down into the finite detail, and you just said, look, Rob, at the end of the day, I know that you come here with a good intention, good action, and you might make a few mistakes. Here is forgiving to that. So in that third question, or the third answer to that question, outside of the culture, the second part of the same coin is come with good intentions, come with good actions, and the results, even if you make a mistake, people will forgive you because they understand and they feel that, hey, this guy is trying to do good, not just to ingratiate or to line his own pockets, but he's actually here to help us all to grow in some way, shape, or form. So,
well, I think that's what we talk about. And ignorance of law is no argument under any country's law. You can't use that argument, and you need to be aware. But then it's back to how do you get that information and the correct information, which can be confusing. I guess recently we've seen a lot of I call it noise about Bali in a less positive way. Highlights of bad tourists, and I kind of say that I don't think there is any more or less bad tourists than there used to be. It's just that it all goes viral, and this seemed to have triggered some kind of, I don't know, domino effect into more politicians and private people. Everyone is making things go viral to a stage where also we see reactions from government institutions, PKP, immigration, and so on, which I think is dangerous for Bali. We all agree that compliance is a must, but I guess that kind of leads to the question of what do you need or want to see expats do more to sort of work away from that and make sure we're all in compliance? What's the sort of ideal foreign company, individual that come into Bali? We talked about the good citizen approach, but maybe we can elaborate a bit. What does that mean? You come to Bali to do business. You talked a bit about social impact, local communities, not just yourself. I guess that's stakeholder capitalism, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's two sides to that coin. One side is, again, one of the things which I love about here, 700 plus cultures, 500 plus languages, and we keep on going. One of the principles here in Bali, this Tri Hita Karana, this 3 ways to prosperity, road to happiness, I love to explain to foreigners in this way, which is, and it answers your question at the same time, is like, if you have a business initiative project, then ask yourself, and this is like a guidance system, score yourself reasonably and honestly out of 10, and it's not scoring 10 out of 10 in each one. So imagine you have this triangle. At the top of this triangle you have, okay, what is the impact effect on my business initiative or project on human to God? How does it impact culture, customs, religion, traditions? Give yourself a score out of 10, honestly. Sliding down to this one over here. So what is the impact of your business project or initiative on human to the environment? Regenerative systems, policies, practices, right? How is it regenerative if possible, right? So give yourself a score out of 10. Then over here, the final point of the triangle is, human to human prosperity. So how does it create prosperity? How does it make money? Let's call it for what it is. If it's not making money, it's difficult to keep going, right? So when you have these 3 aspects together, Tri Hita Karana, 3 roads to happiness, prosperity, I think following that framework, let's call it that for this particular answer to the question, I think as a natural byproduct, you will be in harmony with Bali, right? So that's one aspect to this one side of the coin. The other side of the coin I call non-proliferation. Big word. So with this, what I'm saying is that, this clickbait headline that is kind of going viral all around the world, and you're probably sitting in Australia, or you might be sitting in Bali, or you might be sitting somewhere else in the world. I think there's 3 questions to ask yourself when you see something, knowing that now we are all part of media, we have social media, I am part of media, so I'm pointing at myself as well. I'm not the guy who's perfect, right? So let's say you see a headline, Now before you decide to forward that headline or tell your mates or have an opinion on it, maybe ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, is it true? Right? So now that for a lot of people might be difficult to find. Me personally, I ask you on some things, and I ask some people on others, right? So the first thing is that, is it true? The second thing is that, okay, is it already part of the regulations, or is it something that someone would like to see become law? Or is it a political, in every country there's a political statement to be had. Every country has this. Every country goes through elections, so there is an election cycle in every country. And at certain times of the year, certain candidates will say certain things because it will ideally allow them to make a political point which can get them elected, okay? So the first question is it true? The second question is it part of the regulations already? And you can see this in the way that it's written. If it says something to the effect of this is law, it's law. If it's someone wants to, or the desire is, or this may come into being, or we're looking for this to become, it means that it's not law yet, it's not real. It's a desire that somebody wants to have an impact. So that's the first and second. And then the third one, which I guess is probably more, talking about Bali, is it being enforced? And so going through these 3 questions, or even the first 2, will then allow you, before you start to get that clickbait headline and become part of the media, and then forward that on to the world, ask yourself at least those first 2 questions before you have an opinion, before you then circulate it, and it continues to do more damage.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, you touched on, we've had the election, or year of election. Last year was presidential, regional, governors, everything was up for grab. Now it's kind of done, although I think the political aftermath, it'll go on for a while with more adjustments. And then with new governments, we always see a lot of, what you talk about, regulations, laws and things change. I think this will be a year of adjustments. But I guess my question is more, where do you see Bali heading forward? Some people say we should go back to, the full Trita Karana being farmers, which probably isn't realistic. Some people see a Macau, Hong Kong, Singapore kind of type. And we had another guest on another speak up or talk like this, who said it's more like Kyoto, Japan, who mixes the culture with a very modern, good public transport and so on. But where do you see it sort of?
Beautiful question. Thank you for rephrasing. Let me put it like this, what I'd like to see, right? Maybe what I'd like to see and where I think it's going might be 2 different things. What I'd like to see is, this is a great exercise. So if you're at home or you're watching this from wherever you are in the world, close your eyes, right, for a second. Now, if I say to you, Bali, which images come up in your mind? There's no right or wrong answer. Right, for some it might be, rice paddies. For some it might be some kind of spiritual priest coming. Or some might be this island of the gods, mystic, like Tabanan, right, looking out. Some of you it might be development, right? Some of you might be traffic, right? So, but the brand of Bali for most people is cultural. That's why they come. It's this mystical element where things seem to have a different energy and appeal and so on. So if we go along that line, that the brand of Bali is culture, that's one of the major drivers. So what I would like to see is that culture being respected in a way, and this is the difficulty or the complexity of how can that culture be maintained in a way, which is in keeping with growth. Because at the end of the day, I come from the UK where there's high rises and all the rest of that. Who am I to say to anyone, hey, don't do this, do this. Don't develop, actually go backwards, don't go forwards. I have no right to say that, and I will never say that. So I think once the cat's out of the bag, you can't put it back in, for want of a better term. So I think the development is inevitable. It's going to happen. So then maybe how can the regulatory landscape create an environment where protected green rice paddy is maintained? So let's say Uluwatu hasn't really got much in the way of that. Okay, it's going to be developed, it's going gangbusters. But then let's say Tabanan, let's say the east of Bali, let's say the northwest of Bali, where there's still a lot of green space. How can it be that the regulatory capacity can be enforced to a point where the locals don't want to necessarily sell the land to become this high rise? Maybe developers that come in from maybe the UK, from where I'm from, haven't got the room to basically try to do things locally in a way that we still get this skyscraper built. So what I would like to see is growth in keeping and maintaining the cultural aspect of Bali, especially in the green or protected green areas, that's maintained. What I'd like to see is a more conscious tourist to Bali, as well as the others, which you can't necessarily shut them out. But people come for culture, they come for healing. How can we promote that in a stronger way that then attracts more of that type of tourism as opposed to other types of tourism? And then finally, what I would like to see is a greater harmony where possible. And to get to harmony takes struggle, and sometimes it takes fighting, not necessarily physical, but it takes disharmony to find harmony. So what I'm saying on this third point is that how can we then, educate foreigners like me who come into a place like this on what the rules and regulations are, on the cultural rules and regulations, what they are. So when we come in, we're fully aware and we fully respect this cultural regulatory environment going forward. And for those who don't, there's a point system, there's a way in which that maybe you don't hit them with the hammer, right? But you let them know in a progressive way that, hey, this behavior is not tolerated. And if you want to behave like that, this is not the place for you. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. And I think, we see more and more thinkers or believers like us, and I think we'll hit a tipping point. I see in particular the younger generation of the Balinese, they are very aware and very awake, but it'll need some time, I think, for them to come up and make the change. So I'm quite positive. I guess the last question is, what is SpeakuP Monday?
Oh, okay. So SpeakuP Monday is a talk show that we've had.
You're now to episode soon 500. You've done this for years and years.
Yeah, we're getting close to the 500. Go on. So what it is a passion that became an obsession. Number one, but in physical form, it's a talk show that happens every week. Sometimes we've done more than 2 a week, and it's in general with an audience that come and look at the guests who are having this Q&A. It's three aspects or three pillars that it stands on: people inspire people, unity and diversity, entrepreneurship, and social impact. So the questions that we have is that we deal with C-suites, we deal with innovators, leaders, stakeholders from around 10 different market sectors, and each interview has a focus around entrepreneurship and social impact. But at the same time, it delves into some of the biggest problems, challenges facing that person, that industry, what some of the solutions are to those problems, and probably the most important thing, it gives those who are not in Indonesia, so it's SpeakuP Monday, Destination Indonesia, it gives them a primary source from multiple market sectors for them to get a true understanding of what's happening on the ground, not a clickbait headline. You're hearing it from the horse's mouth. So it is a really great way for people outside and inside of Indonesia to see how it actually works. Yeah.
No, I think you received several awards, and I think it's made an enormous impact to Bali and possibly also Indonesia. I guess to wrap it up, you're everywhere, so you're not hard to find, but how do people find you? Where do they look if they want to have a chat or meet up with you, find out more about your business or SpeakuP Monday?
Yeah.
How do they do that?
Thank you. So my name, Robert Ian Bonnick. You'll find it on all the different channels: Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. So that's one place. SpeakuP Monday is another one, which is on Instagram and Facebook as well. You'll find it there. LinkedIn, just go for the Robert Ian Bonnick. Now, if you want to come in person, probably the best way is every Monday, 6 p.m. at Tropical Nomad, where we've filmed and recorded the last 291 episodes. So you can just come. No need to RSVP, no need to be a member, and you can have food and drink there. And that's the best way, just to come and meet in person and meet some really interesting people which are here in Bali in Indonesia and making a difference in their particular market segment.
And then meet you. I think that wraps it up. Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions or any nice comments, please do so. And if you want to contact Seven Stones to become your partners in growth, you can find us on our webpage, you can find us through social media, or come to Tropical Nomads, which from time to time we're also part of.